Minister, there was a big underspend last year. Can you tell me whether there was an underspend in the capital allocation up to the end of May, whether it's projected that that will carry on again this year to the end of the year, and have you received requests from departments to transfer funding within the department to funding streams that might be spent quicker this year to make up for the shortfall in funding so far, or of expenditure, not of funding, of expenditure so far?
To respond. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Ó Cuív, and I also acknowledge Deputy Brendan Smith, who spoke to me about this issue as well last evening. As reported in the Fiscal Monitor, net capital spend at the end of May this year amounted to 1.885 billion. This is 408 million, or 17.8% behind the end of May profile of 2.293 billion, and compares to expenditure of 2.121 billion for the same period in 2020. So in year-on-year terms, expenditure is 236 million. That's just over 11% below the end of May 2020 position. The main underspends are the Department of Transport, which is just over 158 million, or 30% behind profile at the end of May, and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, which is just under 93 million, almost 17% behind profile. In the transport sector, there is a backlog of work because of the COVID-19 restrictions and a later than anticipated allocation to Transport Infrastructure Ireland. The Department of Transport are satisfied that capital expenditure will realign with their profile as the year progresses. As a result of building site closures during level 5, COVID restrictions, local authority housing is €20 million behind profile. Irish Water is 74 million, or 33% behind the published profile. The capital contribution was not drawn down as profiled because capital expenditure is progressing slower than anticipated due to a restricted operating environment under COVID health and safety protocols. It's too early in the year to definitively state whether expenditure will be on profile at year end. However, my department will continue to engage with all other government departments throughout the year in relation to expenditure management. Expenditure will continue to be monitored in order to assess the implications of the COVID crisis on capital expenditure profiles. Last year, Deputy, there was an underspend carried forward into 2021 of over €700 million. It's undoubtedly the case that the restrictions on construction in particular in the early part of the year has had an impact. I haven't had requests to date for the transfer of funding, but I would be favourably disposed depending on the specific ask.
I'd ask for your cooperation because we have limited time. Éamon Ó Cuív.
Minister, you mentioned the Department of Transport there. Now, they had profiled 25% expenditure in the first 5 months of the year, even though it accounts for 40% of the year. But they're hugely behind by 150 million on that expenditure itself. At a time that county roads are screaming out for money, and where the Department of Transport has literally spent zero on non-county roads, in other words, on LIS roads in the last 10 years. If a request came to you from the Department of Transport to spend more on county roads that urgently need work and on LIS roads, would you be willing to look favourably at it in view of the fact that these are projects that can give you a quick spend as the year goes on?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy, and that is in fact the specific issue that Deputy Smith raised with me, and which I know he intended to raise this morning through this oral question. It is very much a matter for the Minister for Transport to manage his capital budget. You've correctly pointed out that there is a very significant underspend year to date. The feedback we are getting in my own department is that the Department of Transport expects to bring spending in line with profile. But to answer your question directly, if it is the view of the Department of Transport that a reallocation of funding to road improvements, resurfacing of non-national roads, county roads, local improvement scheme roads over the course of this year is what they wish to do in order to to fully avail of their capital envelope, then I would be favourably disposed to facilitating that. But the request for such an initiative has to come from the relevant minister and the Department of Transport, but my door is open, and I will of course engage positively with any such request that might come. Deputy.
Minister, only that I don't want to gum up your department with unnecessary work. I'd love to put on an FOI as to the assurances you got this time last year, and in June and July and August and September and October last year, that all the money would be spent by all the departments, and you wound up with an underspend of 700 million. And of course, I know what happens within the department. Each principal officer is asked, will you be able to spend the money? And for fear it might be taken off them and allocated to somewhere more productive, they'll all assure you they can spend the money until it's too late, back in November, and you have a big heap of money and you can't spend it. In the meantime, ordinary people need things done urgently, and this game goes on year after year. And even the profiling is so skewed towards the back end to cover this particular hobby that goes on within departments. Minister, what steps are you going to make sure that when they tell you they can spend the money, they really will be able to spend the money, and that this year we won't have the scandal of 700 million euros not being spent for the good of the people within the calendar year?
To respond.
Thank you very much, Deputy, and I think you make a number of valid points, and for the record of the House, the actual overall underspend last year was over 900 million. There is a restriction on the amount that you can carry forward, as you know, 10% of the capital within the relevant vote, and so the amount carried forward was over 700 million into 2021. And you also are correct in saying, of course, that departments will guard their capital allocations very closely. What we have done is, in recent months, we have put in place new reporting requirements directly to Cabinet by the main spending departments, a number of them on the current expenditure side, and in relation to capital expenditure by the Department of Housing and the Department of Transport. I'm a firm believer in getting small works done where that's possible, and many of them can be done in a relatively short period of time, and so we'll keep a very close eye on this, Deputy, and if decisions have to be made in relation to reallocating within a department from one subhead to another, as I say, I am very much open to that, but the request does need to come from the line department. Thank you.